these things with you today. And first, of course, must put on some lip balm. Yes, I'm still drinking my water. So I hope you guys are getting refreshed too and that your days are going really, really well. Let's get it started. I added some of these photos so I could do some more green screen today. But let's start off with one thing that is not on the green screen, but is going to, I think, come up a few more times this year and in the coming years, which is Pete Buttigieg for president. And I think that this is something that we haven't talked about enough. But I think his sort of not getting into the fray of going into the 2026 midterms, I think he's gunning for 2028. So you let me know in the comments if that is something that you foresee and if you would vote for him for president. Who would be on that ticket? Who would you vote for that you would think is a solid candidate for that ticket? Okay, I'm curious because I've seen a few people being floated around as a potential running mate situation with Pete Buttigieg. One being AOC. Love that combination. But a lot of people who were very much a Kamala supporter think that she will run again in 2028. So there's that situation where Kamala and Pete could be a dynamic duo. I don't know. Would she run again and pick Tim Walz again? Who knows? I want to know your comments. So let me know who you would vote for in 2028. All right, now here's a story that I think isn't getting enough attention, okay? And I'm going to show you the headline, okay? It says, Usha Vance, my highest priority as second lady is being a normal person. Okay, now the reason that I bring this to you is not just because of this, because obviously she goes on to say in her interview that that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to do, okay? But the part that really struck me is she's talking about, she was asked, about being in this sort of Republican community, a circle of sorts, and how, she's not the stereotypical Republican, this is their words, not mine, talking about, blonde hair, blah, 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 okay? And she goes on in this interview, and let me try to get out of the way of this. Okay, so she's talking in this interview and she's talking about fashion designers and they're asking her about, different kinds of ways that she is dressing and things like that. And then she gets into this quote. Let me get fully out of the way. Okay, for what it's worth, my reception into this world, and I'm not from a particularly wealthy background, not from a fashion-oriented background personally or professionally, has been really positive. Okay, I know this is for interview's sake, but she said it's been really positive. Quote, people don't seem to care, right? They don't seem to care all that much what I look like. I'm just gonna say this. Maybe her circles are different than what we are perceiving them to be. But that quote in and of itself, I think it's a lie. I personally do, because I cannot believe that she is in proximity to someone who has been a known racist, who has put full-blown ads in the New York Times, I believe, or whatever, the newspaper, about the Central Park Five, and that nobody cares what she looks like. Now, maybe she surrounds herself with a different set of people than what we perceive she is. But that quote, I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, this is surprising. So I'm curious to know who she is surrounded by, because that one was a little bit mind-blowing. All right, so one other thing, there are a few things that I wanted to get into. This one is a very, very big one today. Federal judge says the White House's punishment of the Associated Press is unconstitutional. And I believe, if I am not mistaken, today they are back in the White House. Now, when they said, you must call it the Gulf of America, right? We all knew we all knew. One, it's the Gulf of Mexico, and two, it's unconstitutional to tell these reporters what they must say, because that is infringing upon their freedom of speech, their freedom of press. That is exactly their role, is to challenge what people are saying, to get to the truth. It is so crazy that they thought that the White House was going to win this one. But they do believe, I think in the heart of hearts of the people who work in the White House right now, that they will win all of them because of the way that the judges are lined up in their favor. All right, so this is a win, a definite L for the White House, which is a win for all of us on freedom of speech. Okay, so let's get into a few other things that are happening right now. Trump says the U.S. will soon announce a major tariff on imported pharmaceuticals. I also think I saw, and let me see if I can find the actual, this is the other one, here. China, this is the opposite. China announces 84% retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. So we have kind of this sort of reactionary, retaliatory effort from a lot of different places, from the EU, from China, from all over the world. And Donald Trump is doubling down. I believe there was an article about China not responding in time and how we upped this sort of tariff, I believe that's starting today, to like 104%. And I'm like, really? The big con here is the stock market, taking the stock market on purpose. Everyone's 401k is basically in the tank, and the corporations basically being able to weather the storm. I talked about this yesterday about small businesses basically not being able to weather the storm, but him going on the tirade, and then the retaliatory techniques of all of the other countries. Now, a lot of people think that this country is the one that we will not be able to get past, right? That all of the other ones will capitulate and come to the table to start kissing the feet of, his self-proclaimed kingness. But China, on the other hand, I saw a TikTok the other day, and this woman was saying she was from China, she is Chinese, and she was talking about how Xi Jinping, and President Xi, okay, I don't know how to pronounce the rest of his name, and I'm not going to try to butcher it here, that he does not want to lose, because that would be not being able to sort of save face in the presence of this sort of tariff coming down from the United States. And this is all about making sure that you don't back down, that you are not seen as weak. And in his situation, he is very much in control. And similarly to Russia, this is not something that he is about to lose or even lose face for. So these might just continue to go and go and go and go. And he might just be like, bring it on. So this is coming from a different vantage point. The woman was talking more of like on a cultural front, that this is more about making sure that you are staying true to what you have said, and that you don't back down, because that shows weakness. Okay, now we all know that President Trump is weak, so he has flip-flopped and gone back and forth with tariffs with Canada and Mexico and all of that. And this is the one that I don't think he's going to be able to get out of. But when it comes to the pharmaceutical ones, this one, the major tariffs on pharmaceuticals, I really do think that he wants people to die. I think that that's like when people can't get their medications. I saw another TikTok the other day, and it was a woman who was talking about she had her eardrum had an issue, and she was looking at the screen, and she had taken a screenshot of the medications that she was supposed to be taking in order to cure or whatever. Like, I think her eardrum, something had burst or whatever. And she was talking about it in a way that on the screen you could see that there were like 4 medications, and they were all listed as delayed. And that's going to start happening around the world, because when you start messing with the pharmaceuticals, and then you start messing with the USPS, right, who delivers medication on a regular basis to retirees, to the elderly, to sick children, to whomever, this is where it's going to get deadly, is when you start making these sort of tariffs that make the drugs unaffordable, right? they will be out of the reach, and people will start dying because they can't get them, they can't buy them, they're unaffordable. And this person here is going to be like, well, it's all part of the game. Yes. It's sad but true. Here's the quote from CNN's article. I think pharmaceuticals are going to be there, Trump said while addressing the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner last night. Let me get out of the way. It says here, the president complained about high costs Americans pay for the same pharmaceuticals that are cheaper in other countries. It's sometimes 10 times more. Trump said, we are going to do something that we have to do. We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals, and once we do that, they're going to come rushing back, okay, let me get out of the way, into our country. So let me just tell you something. When it comes to pharmaceuticals and putting tariffs on them, like I said, they're going to become unaffordable. They're going to be out of reach. They're going to start being delayed. They're going to stop producing them altogether. But a lot of people do go to other countries to get pharmaceuticals. If you are in California, I've heard of few different people talking about going and getting procedures in other countries because it is more affordable. It is more economical for them to travel to get things done and to buy pharmaceuticals as well. So let me just put it this way. He thinks they're going to come rushing back. We pay high prices here in the United States. Why don't we focus, instead of on tariffing our way out of everything, trying to do the right thing, which is make them more affordable here? I don't think he really understands the idea of a tariff, that he's tariffing you. He's not tariffing them. I just can't, I don't know. It just he hasn't woken up to this yet. Today, again, this is from 2 hours ago, U.S. stock futures tumble after China retaliates against Trump's tariffs. So this is happening. This is Wednesday. Reciprocal tariffs. That's where we're at. We had the Thursday of last week, stocks going down. Friday, he was golfing. They were continuing to go down. On Sunday, the futures were down as well. Monday, there was kind of this down and then an up and then a down. Tuesday, we were kind of in the middle. And then now we are down again. Yeah, so there's no relief happening because there's no end in sight. So I hope that, even though that sounds really, really dire and terrible, I hope that at some point we have clarity, because there's no clarity here as when the end is coming as far as the tariffs are concerned. And I've heard people say, just prepare yourself for the recession because we are headed toward that time. So do what you need to do. The other thing that I wanted to talk about this morning, which is very, very important, and I've talked about it on a few other profiles as far as like TikTok and different events that have been happening around AI. I wanted to point you in the direction of this, which is an article on Wired, and it says the AI race has gotten crowded and China is closing in on the US. Now, OpenAI got a big wake-up call when that AI came out from China. It was a replication, basically using the open source code, and I think it was called Janus Pro 7B. I think that was what it was called. And this is really important. I've been talking about the conferences that have been happening. The AI conference that happened in England, and then there was another one in South Korea that was an online version, and then there was one in France more recently. I believe it was in February, and they are talking about it here across the globe, China and France being the next two big ones to compete with the US. So I wanted to bring you this this sort of data-driven report that is very, very interesting, and I think that you should start looking at it. It is called the the 2025 AI Index Report. It is by Stanford University, and I think that this is very important. I'm going to give you kind of a few screenshots where they talk about some of the things that are really, really important on how they are basically following the data within the AI community. Okay, so let's get started. It goes into Stanford HAI, believing AI is poised to be the most transformative technology in the 21st century, and it goes down, and you can download this report. Here are just some of the top The top lines from the report so far: AI performance on demanding benchmarks continues to improve. So we have a lot of great improvement with AI. Secondly, AI is increasingly embedded in everyday life. You might be using ChatGPT. You might be using Gemini. You might be using some other sort of AI that you have created in order to do your business. We are always getting suggested with different algorithms on every single social media platform as well. All right, number 3, business is all in on AI, fueling record investments and usage as research continues to show strong productivity impacts. Now, we have been talking about Doge coming in and looking at all the governmental systems and having to figure out like how much of what we do as humans they want to replace with AI. So it's been very interesting. I don't know if you got your tax return. I got my tax return in record time. I'm not sure if the humans behind that are just like lickety split these days, but I got mine in record time, and I don't know if that has to do with any of the systems being replaced yet. So who knows? That's just my speculation. Okay, number 4, the US still leads in producing top AI models, but China is closing the gap in performance. Okay, so we may have OpenAI, we may have all these other ones that are doing really great, but the performance of those models might be better coming out of China, which is very interesting that we've got not, I'm going to have you look at this one really quickly because it's got a lot of information on it. 2024 US-based institutions produced 40 notable AI models, significantly outpacing China's 15, Europe's 3, while the US maintains its lead in quantity. The Chinese models have rapidly closed in the quality gap. Performance differences on major benchmarks such as MMLU and human eval shrank from double digits in 2023 to near parity in 2024. I'm just telling you, the gap is closing. And that's why you see so many people that flocked to TikTok, because it's a Chinese app and it has a better algorithm than a lot of the other US social media platforms like Meta and all of the others. All right, so let's keep going. Okay. Number 5, the responsible AI ecosystem evolves unevenly. Okay, so being ethical with AI has kind of dipped in some areas. And this might be so much more evident because when I was talking about those AI events in France, in South Korea, and in England, China showed up to a few of them, but they did not sign on to everything that people wanted, as far as like not using them for like nuclear things and things like that. They are not signing on to anything really. They're signing on to like evaluating, potentially collaborating, but they're not going to be signing on to a lot of the stuff that other people want them to, or I should say other countries want them to kind of rein their AI in on all of its capabilities. All right, number 6. Global AI optimism is rising, but deep regional divides remain. Like I said, everybody's got their own AI going, and it's all about competition, it is. Number 7, AI becomes more efficient, affordable, and accessible. That's just because more and more people are starting more companies. And when you have more companies in the fold, it's going to become cheaper. Also, the stock market tanked with all those tech stocks when China came out with that sort of replica model. All right, number 8, governments are stepping up on AI with regulation and investment. Obviously, we have a lot of investment in AI, and that's a good thing, but the regulation is going to come slow. I think that because governments, and especially when you watch some of these hearings with congressional leaders and Senate leaders, they talk about it like it's the most foreign thing that they've ever heard of. They are not educated enough about the process of creation for these AI models. And when they ask the questions, they look like they're in this foreign land. So they're not even asking the right questions in order to be able to regulate it more efficiently. There are some executive orders that are talking about regulation of AI and being ethical and all of those, and especially when it comes to monitoring how it's working with children and all of that. All right, number 9. AI and computer science education is expanding, but gaps in access and readiness persist. Okay, this is happening everywhere. You might have heard of like Girls Who Code and STEM schools and things like that. Yes, the educational gap is there amongst some of the younger kids, but the amount of programs that are out there has grown astronomically. So who knows how much students are going to want to get into this field. Okay, I have a few people that I've talked to who are data scientists and they wanted to get into machine learning, but they're better at other things. So maybe not everybody is going to want to get into this field, but it is the way that a lot of programs are leaning these days, is to create more opportunity for people to expand their knowledge in this area. Number 10, industry is racing ahead in AI, but the frontier is tightening. Okay, I wanted to highlight this one because it was very interesting. Let me get out of the way really quickly. All right, it says nearly 90% of notable AI models in 2024 came from industry, up from 60% in 2023, while academia remains the top source of highly cited research. Okay, so while we have this sort of private industry like, Gemini or whatever, or even if you're talking about X, who is now part of XAI with Elon Musk. Thank you for liking my life. This is very interesting that the industry is part of it, but the academic research is so fundamental to bolstering the newness of a lot of this technology. So when you hear about different policies with Donald Trump taking away grants, taking away a lot of the federal money that is subsidizing a lot of these different universities, those grants, although I think they're right now tailored to DEI initiatives, those might start going into all of these different technology based programs that help advance AI. All right, number 11, AI earns top honors for its impact on science. Obviously, there's a lot of different, they're talking about Nobel Prizes. And of course, the advancement of technology is going to start garnering some awards and attention. And then number 12, complex reasoning remains a challenge. And I think when you're talking about the differences for how much AI can do that humans cannot, or what humans can do that AI cannot, okay? So this one I wanted you to read because I think this is probably one of the most challenging ones. AI models excel at tasks, okay, like International Mathematical Olympiad problems, but still struggle with complex reasoning benchmarks like Plan Bench. They often fail to reliably solve logic tasks, even when provably correct solutions exist, limiting their effectiveness in high-stakes settings where precision is critical, which is why we don't want them in charge of nuclear codes. Because there are so many factors, so many variables that could happen that we don't want them in charge of all of that, right? We want humans to still remain human. I understand that a lot of people want AI to just take over, do everything, that, give us more time with our families, blah, blah, blah. But task-oriented things, it's great. Use it for creating a special story to read to your children at night. There's so many different things that you could be doing with AI. But, oh, hey, sorry, I missed the chat. I hope you guys are doing well this morning. But these are some of the things that I think are really important when it comes to technology, especially AI. So if you wanted to download this report, go over to the HAI at Stanford, download this, and watch your wallets today. I've taught for a very long time today. I hope that you're having a really good one, and definitely go over to my Substack and subscribe over there. It's just my name, at Sandra Colton-Medici. You'll find me right away, and subscribe over there. You can do the paid subscription or the free one. I do a lot of content over there now. I'm trying to switch over my channels and solely focus on YouTube and Substack. The Substack material that I'm doing, I am trying to do a live every single day on there as well. Normally I'm going to be doing morning YouTube and evening Substack, but I haven't settled on a time yet. Definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you're just joining me, make sure to go back in, I think it should post right away for this, this live, and I will see you guys again tomorrow.